In the red-hearted village of Itoko, where the palm trees swayed like dancers and moonlight draped the earth in silver, two boys grew up side by side. Adeoba, son of a wealthy trader from the Adigbola royal bloodline, and Kolapo, son of a poor palm wine tapper from a forgotten royal branch of the Arogundade family, long buried in poverty. They played under mango trees, fetched water from the stream, and listened to folktales by firelight. Though worlds apart in wealth and influence, they were brothers in heart. They shared roasted corn, carved wooden slings together, and raced barefoot along the dusty paths of Itoko. But as time ripened them, their paths diverged. Adeoba was sent to trade towns to learn the ways of riches. He returned from Abeokuta and Ijebu with stories of caravans, clothes, and coins. Kolapo remained behind, helping his father survive on crumbs, carrying calabashes of palm wine through the thorny bushes, and eating from cracked plates. One evening, as the sun cast gold over the rooftops of Itoko, news reached them of a prophet atop Agbala Hill, whose words never failed. People said his tongue held fire, and his eyes saw through time. With hearts pounding and dreams bubbling like hot yam porridge, they journeyed to him. Climbing the hill was no small feat. The path was steep, and the forest thick. They arrived breathless before a man clad in white, seated beneath a mighty tree that seemed to touch the clouds. The prophet's eyes were closed as if conversing with the heavens. He opened them slowly, and the air seemed to pause. "You both seek what the future holds," he said, his voice calm but filled with echo. "I see into the spirit realm, and what I see is clear." He turned to Adeoba. "You, Adeoba, will be a king among men. You shall wear fine clothes, live in wealth, and walk with pride." Then he faced Kolapo. "You, Kolapo, shall be a servant. Your hands will serve others. You will be mocked, looked down upon. That is what lies ahead." Kolapo bowed his head, heart heavy with silence. A part of him had hoped to hear of greatness. Adeoba smiled broadly, his chest rising like the morning sun. The prophecy was spoken, and they returned to Itoko, one with swelling pride, the other with a soul stirred by mystery. The wind whispered through the trees, as if it too had heard destiny take shape. The seed of prophecy took root that day, but only time would tell whose harvest would truly feed the land. Adeoba's fortune bloomed like the flamboyant trees in full season. He built a wide compound with carved gates, wore imported wrappers that shimmered in the sun, and returned to Itoko with horses, bells jingling as he rode. The village drummers beat their talking drums in his honor, and elders spoke of the boy from Adigbola as a rising star. Kolapo, on the other hand, became a shadow. He ran errands, carried loads, and was mocked even by children. The boys who once played with him now laughed behind his back. Some mimicked his guards, others called him Kolapo the errand boy. At a festival meant to honor the gods of harvest, as Kolapo approached to deliver firewood, Adeoba's voice rang out, sharp and full of pride. "Make way for the king's servant," he jeered. Laughter erupted. Kolapo froze. His hands trembled. The firewood dropped. People turned to look. He picked the wood in silence and walked on. But that moment, public, bitter, and piercing, edged something deep into his spirit. Shame became his companion, but it also stirred something more dangerous: hunger. Not the hunger of the stomach, but the hunger of the soul. He began to ask, "Is this truly my end?" However, in Itoko, each morning, before sunrise, a preacher's voice would echo through Itoko's dusty lanes. Kolapo never left his room, but he always listened. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. The Son of the Most High lifts beggars to dine with princes. Kolapo would sit up, his eyes wide. The preacher's voice cut through his souls like a blade through yam. Speak what you believe. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. The words became seeds in Kolapo's soul. He began whispering them back. I am above. I am a king. I am not what I see. I am not what he says I am. I am what God says I am. Daily, he drank these messages like water. Each word felt like a hammer, breaking the walls of shame. He meditated on them in silence, even while walking, cooking, or lying on his mat. No one saw the change, but the word had entered his bones. Kolapo had no riches, but he was gathering wisdom. While Adeoba mocked, Kolapo began to dream. And when he walked the streets, he lifted his head, not in arrogance, but in new understanding. The morning breeze in Itoko began to feel like a whisper of possibility. One night, Kolapo dreamt of cracked lands, empty barns, and weeping mothers clutching their children in his dream. The skies were brass and the rivers dust. A voice whispered clearly, prepare, there will be 7 good years, then famine. He woke with sweat pouring down his face, heart pounding like a drum in festival. The dream would not leave him. Its urgency wrapped around his spirit like a net. He could not shake the feeling that the voice was divine. Without delay, Kolapo sold all that he had, his only goats and even the mat he slept on. People thought he had gone mad. Kolapo is bewitched, they cried. Even his parents were worried. He used the money to purchase a forgotten grove on the outskirts of Itoko, a wide bushy place known only to hunters as Eden. Eden had become abandoned for years, filled with thorns, snakes, and whispers. But Kolapo saw something else. He saw fertile soil and shadows of barns. He walked in secret. Every morning before the sun rose, he cleared weeds, tilled the land, and prayed as he walked. His hands bled, his back ached, but he never stopped. At night, he spoke to himself, I am a king. Kings sow before others see the harvest. He wore the same torn wrapper every day, and still people scoffed. Who farms the forest? They laughed. Others whispered, he has surely lost his mind. Kolapo said nothing. For 7 years, he planted yams, maize, millets, and several other crops. He rotated crops and studied the seasons. He stored water using clay channels and built hidden silos. While the village danced, he walked. While others partied, he planned. He applied techniques he had learned from old farmers. He mixed ash with compost, used neem leaves to drive away pests, and prayed over his fields. Each year, he whispered the words of the preacher, words no one else remembered but him. Store up in time of plenty, for the time of lack is coming. By the end of the 7th year, Kolapo stood inside Eden, surrounded by stores full of food. Yams stacked like pillars, maize poured like rivers, and peace filled his chest. Then, as he had seen in his dream, the rains ceased. The 8th year opened with blue skies, but no rain. Clouds gathered like dancers in the sky, but gave no water. By mid-year, the streams of Itoko were no more than trickles. By the year's end, even the deepest wells whispered their last drops. The elders grew quiet. The people murmured. The markets emptied. Mother bartered jewelry for a few tubers. Families began to migrate, searching for fertile land. It was whispered later that The famine had struck so deep, even the Olutoko of Itoko himself had not survived it. His palace, once the symbol of strength, became a quiet tomb of regret. They said he died not from hunger alone, but from grief, watching his people wither while he had no answers. It was during the second year of the famine that the king passed in his sleep. His throne cold before dawn. His burial was rushed and quiet, for the people had no energy to mourn the dead. The news of the king's death had caused a tremble in the hearts of elders. A vacuum had been created. They began to talk about a succession, although their children were still fainting in the sun. All eyes turned to the Adigbola household. Adeoba, now a well-dressed and respected man, presented himself as the natural successor. He rode into the village square with drums behind him, and some elders nodded at his royal blood. But his barns were empty. When hunger deepened, someone whispered, "Kolapo has food." Another said, "He farmed in Eden, alone for years." At first, Adeoba scoffed, "Kolapo, that ragged boy, what does he have?" But when his servants confirmed it, when they saw months of yams and sealed granaries, Adeoba could no longer hold it. He rode to Eden as a friend. While multiple people followed him, the whole villagers have heard about what has happened in Eden. And of course, they wanted food. So all the village shifted towards Kolapo. "Kolapo," Adeoba called, trying to sound warm. "Remember how close we were? How I gave you coins? We were brothers then. Look, I have money. You have food. Let me buy from you and let's stop the problem of hunger in Itoko village." Kolapo emerged, older and calm. He studied the people's face, then looked towards Adeoba. "You mocked me. You humiliated me before all. But this is not about us. This is about Itoko." Adeoba bowed his head. Kolapo paused, then nodded. "Let everyone gather here. Let the people come together. Let the elders step forward." His voice echoing over a large crowd of hungry villagers. People who once mocked him for his poverty now pays attention to the man who has solution to their problems. Kolapo looked out at the sea of villagers who had followed. Some knelt, others sobbed. A child collapsed beside his mother. He knew this was the consummation of all he had done in secret over the years. The future he has carved out for himself in his mind and with his words over the years. Kolapo faced the people. He stood tall. "I will give you food," he said, his voice carrying like thunder through the parched fields. "And not at famine price. No, you will buy it at a price lower than what food was when it was plenty." Gasps and murmurs filled the air. The people looked at one another in disbelief. But Kolapo added, "There is one condition." Silence fell again. "Itoko needs a king, not one with a name, but one with a vision. A servant leader, someone who saw this day long before it came. If you will crown me king, then this food will be yours." The elders exchanged glances. The debate started. An elder stood. "Adeoba is of the Adigbola bloodline. His family has ruled Itoko for generations. Tradition cannot die." Mothers holding empty calabashes. Old men leaning on sticks with hollow faces. They were looking at the man. Some nodded their head in agreement. The council began. The head elder raised his hand. "We are in crisis. Our barns are empty. Our children are dying and crying. Our fields are ash. Now we need someone to lead us." Another elder retorted, "Tradition does not fill a man's stomach. Adeoba has no food to give us. What is royalty without solution to problem of the people?" A third elder nodded towards the crowd. Kolapo of the Arogundade line, though long forgotten, is also of a royal descent too, and he has prepared. For 7 years, he worked while all of us danced. A loud voice interrupted. It was Adeoba. He stepped forward, his fine wrapper billowing. "Yes, I mocked him, but he is my brother still. Let me buy food from him. Let the people eat, and let the throne be mine, as it is my right." Adeoba turned fully to face the crowd. "My people, do not be afraid," he said with conviction. "When I become king, I will journey myself to a distant village, one untouched by the famine. I will bring back food and distribute it freely among you." His words stirred a few, especially his loyal supporters, but most of the crowd remained silent, their eyes shifting towards the elders, waiting to hear what they would say. Kolapo, quiet until then, stepped forward. His voice was calm yet strong. "I did not prepare for power. I prepared for life. I am no stranger to shame. I have known hunger, mockery, and labor. But a king must serve, and the Toko needs a servant leader. If the people will have me, I will lead, not for pride, but for purpose." The elders exchanged glances, talked a little more amidst themselves, and finally, the head elder among them broke the silence. "Let the people decide." There was murmuring. Then an old woman broke the silence, with a cracked voice and eyes like melted glass, lifted a crying baby above her head. "Will tradition feed this child?" she asked. "My grandson has not eaten in 2 days." Other mothers lifted their babies. The square echoed with the wails of hungry. "We want Kolapo," someone shouted. "Kolapo, Kolapo," the people chanted. Adeoba angrily left the gathering with his entourage. Then the chant grew louder. "Kolapo, Kolapo." Then the head chief stepped forward. "The voice of God is the voice of the people, and the gods have spoken through the people. Let Kolapo, son of Arugundade, be crowned king." And so, in the dry wind of famine, a new king was chosen, not by lineage alone, but by vision and sacrifice. After Kolapo's coronation, one of his first acts was to declare that Eden would become a model for surrounding farms. He established the Center for Sustainable Farming, where young men and women were trained in climate-resilient agriculture. He commissioned builders to dig boreholes, connect distant parts of Itoko, and build a central storage barn that could hold food for 5 years. Some months after Kolapo had been crowned, Adeoba came forward. No crowd, no pride, just a quiet man, once full of himself, now humbled by grace. "I wronged you," Adeoba said, eyes lowered. "I mocked your dream. I laughed at your words. I wounded you in public. Yet, you fed me when I was starving. You led our people when I could not. For all that, I am sorry." Kolapo smiled. "It is well." Then, to the surprise of the elders, Kolapo stood and placed his hand on Adeoba's shoulder. "You will head the Agbo a la Comuna, the new communal economic and agricultural project. You will manage our trade with neighboring lands, oversee distribution, and expand Eden's influence beyond Itoko. I know your eye for commerce, and I know your heart has changed." Whispers moved through the assembly. Why would Kolapo entrust such a vital position to the one who once shamed him? Kolapo heard their thoughts. He turned and said with a calm voice, "We do not bury men with potential because of yesterday's error. We lift them when they are ready to rise." It was as though the prophecy had been turned on its head. Kolapo now wore the crown as a king, while Adeoba served under him, the direct opposite of what the old man prophesied. The healing of Itoko did not happen overnight, but each week brought change. Women who once begged for yam peels began running their own produce stores. Fathers returned to their homes, no longer ashamed. Schools reopened. Drums echoed again through the land, but now they were drums of planting festivals. Kolapo visited every corner of the village. He sat with the blind, the old, the sick. He listened, he learned, and when he spoke, his words carried the weight of a man who had once been dismissed. He invited storytellers to gather children under the roko tree every market day to retell the history of the famine and the vision that saved Itoko. Songs were composed, proverbs were coined, and among them all, the most famous saying was, "A man may be born in dust, but if he carries water, he will grow the forest." Adeoba, now the overseer of Agbuala, often joined Kolapo in village meetings. These two sat side by side, and many marveled at how prophecy could take a different shape. Sometimes, when the stars were bright and the children had gone to bed, the two would walk the paths of Eden in silence. Then Adeoba would say, "Do you ever wonder if the prophet saw all of this?" Kolapo would chuckle. "Maybe he did, or maybe the Most High just gave us space to choose rightly." And together, they watched over a land once forgotten, now fruitful. The moral of the story. In the story, we learn that no man, no matter how gifted, has the final say over your destiny. Not even the prophets who see into the hidden things. The words spoken over your life may be true for a season, but it is your faith, vision, and action that shape what you become tomorrow. We also see that you are the architect of your own fortune or your misfortune. Kolapo was not born into power or wealth, yet he did not surrender to what others said he would become. Instead, he cast a different future for himself, not with wishful thinking, but with what we call prophetic imagination. He saw himself as more than a servant. He imagined a life of wisdom, leadership, and fruitfulness, and then he labored in secret until that vision became real. So cast a future for yourself in your heart. Let your thoughts align with purpose. Let your words shape your world. Then walk towards it with discipline, prayer, and sacrifice. And in time, destiny will meet you on the path you carved by faith. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Click the notification button so that you don't miss out on our next powerful tale.